Phenomena. Phenomena. Phenomena.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of most ages, welcome back to another episode of Don't Be So Brewed. Guess what? It's just the boys today.
Yeah.
It's just us.
The boys are back in town.
Nothing. We're going to have some fun conversations today. I was told not to tease what's on the episode anymore because you know what?
Really?
If people really love us, they need to stick around for everything.
Is that
You don't need to be skipping
that
forward.
was feedback.
Yes.
Don't tease. So we had one person or multiple people say we want to know what's coming.
Uh-huh.
And then we have others that say we like the suspense and the surprise.
And I kind of like that because what do we always say? This episode, this show is a roller coaster.
We don't know what's coming for the most part.
We have a little bit of an idea of where this might go, but you never know. Sometimes, like guests like Kyle drop stories on us that we have no idea. We didn't know that was coming.
That's right. No planning.
You know what? You just got to roll with it when a story comes out about him falling off of a mountain and almost dying. So,
is that a pun? You got to roll with it?
Yeah. Yes. Naturally. So I also want to make sure I mention statistically, because I know everyone loves when we start off with our stats.
Yes.
Again,
where are we?
We are the #1 podcast in Canyon Creek.
So is that a drop or an increase? I mean, we were #1 in Richardson last week.
Well, we're also #1 in Canyon Creek. It's been statistically proven. Saturday at your house, I ran a survey while we were there just to double check.
Okay.
The stats don't lie.
That's validating the statistics, yes. Obviously.
I will say a friend of mine, talking to him the other day, he said he loves it. It was just, I didn't even know he was somebody who listens. He shared our podcast a couple times. Tristan, if you're watching, what's up, man? He literally was like, man, I like the podcast. He was talking about how funny it is. I'm like, all right, well, at least we think we're funny.
You're welcome.
Yeah, at least we got that. So we could be a little sophomoric at times, with the fart and dick jokes, but I think that's what people really like about us, whether they admit it or not. That's like an inside joke. If the person who I know said that is listening, she'll get back to me. And if not, then I'm safe.
You know who you are.
So my thought process was, let's just kind of let everyone catch up with us, what's going on with us. A lot of times we have people in here and we're talking about them. So I was going to ask you, how are things in business? What's going on with Etchis, one of our amazing sponsors, by the way. Etchis Co. They take really good care of us. They pimp out our stuff.
We do.
They also take care of our people. I know you just took care of a friend of mine recently.
I took care of a friend of yours.
Took care of a friend of mine. Pimped out some of his stuff.
Helping grow his business.
So how are things going over at Etchis?
Things are going really good, man. It's month, I guess, 3 in the new facility.
Nice.
And it's crazy. I mean, I kind of sit back and I'm like, I knew it was going to be a lot of work. I had no idea just how much work it was going to be. After working in corporate America, corporate's kind of a luxury area where a lot of these entities, that they have their target markets. They're going in. They've got salespeople. They're knocking on doors. They know where they're going. For a small business, this whole SEO game and everything else that goes along with it, I mean, it is like, it's not even like drinking from a fire hose. It's like there's 4 fire hydrants lined up and they're just kind of moving me in front of each one. And,
Yeah, it's the ocean and, hey, here's a straw. Get to drinking.
Yeah, and don't suck too hard, I mean, it's crazy, but it's like there's so much to do. I mean, you've got to go sell your wares, right? Or your services. You've got to make sure your website is looking clean and crisp. You got to make sure your Facebook's up to date, your Instagram's up to date. You got to make sure your SEO is there. There's like 4 or 5 different kinds of SEO.
Not just up to date, that you're also entertaining people and putting out content that people want to see.
It's lifestyle content, and it's kind of challenging. Even for us, we've got a lot of product stuff. Like even today, I put up a picture of a video. We're engraving an axe, which is kind of cool.
Nice, that's cool. Like the handle or the head of the axe?
Like the head of the axe.
Nice.
It was pretty badass.
So you engraved the tip.
Just the tip.
Nice.
That's all that matters, right? So we put that up. That was kind of cool, but it's not lifestyle related. Like a lot of the lifestyle stuff, I tend to feel really does well and gets a lot of traction. My stuff is like the cooking videos from last year.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of mesmerizing to watch. You don't know what's going to happen, and then this cool end product comes out of it, and it's like, that's badass.
Mm-hmm.
Like I find myself getting that, I call it the drool face. You're just sitting there watching, and it's like, oh, this is just amazing.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, you get enamored by that because you want to watch something to completion, or you want to watch what happens, or you're like, what is it going to do? And especially, I know for you guys, when you're laser engraving stuff, like, it doesn't necessarily do it in a pattern necessarily that lays out, like, what it's going to look like in the beginning. So it'll start with, like, this, and then do the outside, and then like, I get stuck watching those videos, too, when you upload something, because it's cool, and, like, I don't know what it is about your brain. You just want to watch something because you know it's going to be short. So it's like you want to watch it to completion. You want to see what is this going to look like. And so I know from a standpoint with your business, like, I think that's great content because people look at it and they're like, that's cool. And, like, I know I've talked to several people about you lately, just about the stuff that you can do, personalizing things. I had a patient the other day that, like, found out they love guns. They're really into that stuff. And so, you know, they love hunting and all that. And I was like, hey, if you ever want, you know, she was showing me her new guns. I'm like, if you ever got any cool stuff you want to do with it, let me know. So I was kind of telling her naturally is, you know, helping each other out with a little business, some referrals here and there just to try to, you know, talk it up a little bit. But
absolutely.
Which I want to get into that a little bit, our idea that we talked about on Saturday.
Well, how's your stuff been going?
Things have been going really well. May was probably the slowest of slow, like almost debilitating slow. Like you're just like, whoa, what is going on here?
Like, am I doing the right thing here? And
I think, you know, for me now, I know because listen, every year that my business is open, I basically am collecting more data of what's going on at certain times. And there's times where you're sowing and there's times where you're reaping, essentially. So it's, should you always be sowing? Yes. Should I be putting out content, posting things, reaching out to people, following up? All while also, you know, you talk about in business, there's a lot of hats to wear. Like, we didn't even get into all of them, but it's like, oh, I got this person, and I take care of the books, and I'm checking the stats, and, oh, hey, I get to do all the paperwork, too, and plug all that stuff through. Oh, and then I have to make sure people are doing well and that they're feeling better and that those things are going well. Awesome. Yeah. Oh, and then I got to go get more people. Oh, and, hey, I should probably post about this. Like, it's a lot of things, man, and it's one of those things that, you know, I think for us, you know, we always talk about one of our big goals with this is to support other businesses and to help people and to try to, you know, get exposure because, you know, for people, like you said, that just work, you know, no offense to them, like that's what my wife does. You work in corporate America, you get a job, you show up for that. That's needed. Not everyone's made out to be like this, but it's one of those things that people think, hey, man, that's really cool. And then that's all they ever think about it. And it's like, man, if that's someone that you know, like if you like us and you support us, we would appreciate just, you know, I see this post that goes around on Instagram every once in a while, and it's like ways to support a friend that owns a small business or that is an entrepreneur. You know, a like, a share, a review, a comment, anything like that. Like those things are super easy, but it's like they can really help drive up engagement and help a business because that's really what we're trying to do. You're putting stuff out there because it's ultimately we're trying to create this awareness. We're trying to build a brand. We're trying to put these things out there, and we're trying to become
and ultimately we're trying to help people, right? We're trying to help people either, like at least for the things that we do, like we're either trying to help them grow a business, feel better about what they're doing, feel better about themselves. I mean, there's lots of reasons. Not everyone's out there to just make an absolute crushing it killing. You know,
everyone wants to be Amazon,
right? I mean, there's a lot of value in helping others grow. And there's a lot of residual that comes from that too. I mean, just, you know, most people don't forget where they came from. They know what kind of trials and tribulations they hit along the way, and there's no direct path. I mean, you get out there on the path itself, and it's like everybody's in there telling you what you got to do, because it may have worked for them, or it may have just worked them getting $20 a head, just selling an ebook and saying this worked for me. It could work for you too. You know, and you don't really have the time to sit there and figure out what each of those pieces are. You really just want someone to say, okay, here's the roadmap, here's the checklist, go.
And it's tough to know because there's one of the things my coach always tells me, there's no one right way to do anything. So it's not necessarily that there's a guaranteed roadmap for everyone. There are certain things I think that carry over in each one, but there's not necessarily like, here was my pathway. And it's like, well, that didn't work for me, or you just had to do what works for you. But man, it is one of those things like you talk about, like that was, you know, even for me and like going in the direction, the biggest thing that I was scared of when I had a friend of mine really push me was, if you were going to be super focused and only helped, a certain group of people, who would that be? Like, who do you get the best results for?
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking through it, and I'm like, well, who's done the best? And I'm like, well, I really help people with migraines a lot. And he was like, okay, so then what if you start, that's who you work with, that's who you speak, like, what do these people
And that's how the migraine doc came
and
to
that's
be.
how the migraine doc came to be. And so it was one of those things where I remember the reason I really got into it was because I could tell how passionate I was. First of all, I can relate to those people. I had a wife that used to deal with migraines. I've helped patients who deal with migraines. I've had levels of that. I've never been migraine level, but I've had headaches from post-concussion stuff from playing sports and being in football and being an idiot when I was younger.
You've been knocked around a little bit.
Yeah. When the jackass era was very popular, doing dumb stuff to...
It's like, don't do this at home. Okay, I'll do it at my friend's house.
Yeah. We'll go wreck our bike into a bush or something stupid or jump out of this. But, I remember we kind of did this thing. We sat down and we had some questions, and it's like you kind of really, if you're going to serve this market or these people, like, what are they dealing with? What does this look like? How are you helping them? And I remember, to me, it just came so easily, and I was so passionate and I was so fired up about it. And I'm like, well, that's what I need to be doing then. Like, that needs to be the stuff that I'm really getting into, because if that comes so easily, and then I remember, okay, I'm going to do this, and I got some decent traction, like, right off the bat, then just like anything else, that kind of ebbs and flows. So it dropped down, and every other time before I'd kind of started on that, like when I first opened, I was like, I'm going to be the sleep doc, because I helped a lot of people with sleep right off the bat. Like, every single patient that came in, their sleep got better. And I was like, well, maybe that's what I do. And
it's finding the niche.
Shiny object.
It's finding the niche.
It is, but it can be shiny object syndrome.
Oh,
like,
it absolutely can.
Because with you can personalize anything. You can do a lot of stuff. When it comes to health, there's a lot of different things that show up. But can I help people with that if I'm focusing on a specific system the way that we do in my office? Yes. And so for me, it was like, you get terrified that if you shut these people out, are you closing out an opportunity for business?
And you could be, right? But but if you had a fully developed niche, and people were coming in and you were making money and everything was doing what it was supposed to be doing, you really wouldn't care much. Mm-hmm. You'd be like, you know what? This is my specialty. I am a foot doctor. I am a hand doctor. Now, could that person service the rest of the body? Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
They're educated. They know it.
But they've decided to say, hey, you know what? I like hands, or I like feet, or, whatever the case may be. And I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The thing is, like, the thing you do is pretty much the same for everybody, but everybody's reaction to it is different because everybody's different.
Basically, I mean, that's as simple as you can make it. There's a process. There's what we go through. But I remember, I think this is one of the biggest things that we talk about all the time. Is like, man, I'm going to shut people out, or I'm going to do this. But it was really leaning into the fact of, like, who do I love serving the most? Who do I love when they come in, helping them and really working with it? Who are my best patients?
It's got to be the people that are in the most pain that you have the big turnaround stories with.
Well, and that's the thing is it's when they come in, that's not fun. But as they come out of that and they become the person that they can be, and they're empowered and they feel better, I'm like, it's exciting to watch them get their life back, to feel like they can be a mom or a dad, and to feel like they can. Sometimes it's even just being able to be like, I love my job, but I feel like I can't show up. I can't be there. All those things are taken from them. But I remember what I was going to say is, like, 6 months in, I almost bailed on it because I was like, this isn't working. This is a terrible idea. And the problem is those things take time to develop. So it's one of those things that you look at, and it was like, if I would have gave up on it, it would have been a terrible decision. So it was... Dude,
I had one of those moments, like, 2 weeks ago. I was sitting at my desk, and I kind of sat back, and I'm like, the words came out of my mouth. I'm like, I can't do this. And I was like, what the fuck just happened?
Every entrepreneur, the words that come to you.
Oh my God. I was like, and then I first started freaking out. I was like, nah, I can do this. Just, breathe. It was funny. I was listening to another podcast, and the fellow was talking about how to build new habits and routines. And he was saying how he liked getting up in the morning early. His most productive 2 hours of the day were like 5:30 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. Nice. And he'd get up, he'd make his coffee, and he'd go stretch. And he goes, I'd stretch till the coffee machine is done, and then I'd go get my pot of coffee, and I'd come in and either record a podcast or write or whatever the case may be. But one of the things he mentioned was he started listening to meditation music during that period and during the day. And he said it was really kind of mind altering. And I'm like, that's pretty fascinating.
I can believe that.
So I did it. I did it this week.
Yeah, you're creating changes.
And all that happened is I kept thinking about getting a massage, because that's the music. If you want to know what meditation,
you got to pick different music.
I know. If you want to know what meditation music is, it's kind of like you go lay down on the table, and that's what's going on in the background. Mm-hmm. So
maybe switch over to like some classical and try that.
It helped me. Like it really did help. Like it just kept me level all day. It was almost like just balancing, like some level of equilibrium. Mm-hmm. It's been really interesting.
No, I think those are the people that you always see is the ones that are super successful. They have discipline in their life. They create these disciplines around certain things. That's, even with the podcast, we have the discipline of this thing comes out once a week. We have people ask, are y'all still doing that thing? I'm like, hell yeah, we're still doing that thing. This is rocking and rolling, and people want it every week, So it's...
You got to give the people what they want.
That's right. So no matter what, we get it done, but it's one of those things that's super cool, and that's, like I was saying, it's the patience. Like you talk about being 3 months in and doing all those things and really building that up. Like, I think you're way ahead of where I was, just because it's like it's starting to have this, like, what you're creating and what that looks like. Because I was like, I can do this and I can do that, and I'm trying to because you're just trying to get people in the door at that point. Same thing.
Yeah, but I mean, the other thing that's scary is, like, I don't have a residual business model. And where's everything gone in the last 5 years? Straight up subscription, everything. Right,
but that's getting ready to burn out. That's the thing. It
is and it isn't. Like I was sitting there today. I got a question for you. We'll kind of go a little tangent here. What happens if Amazon collapses? Okay, and the reason I asked this, and not that it could or would or should, right? So 2 days ago,
put some parameters on.
So I'll give you some parameters, right? So 2 days ago, Bezos sells $1.8 billion worth of stock. Mm-hmm. Today he sells another $1 billion worth of stock. So granted, it's small percentages in the grand scheme of what this guy's worth and what he's owed. But I just sat there. I'm like, what if something really off is going on? What if this thing just something comes up and these guys just kind of disappear off the face of the earth? Does a Walmart step in or a Target step in and try and deliver that level of convenience and service? And
somebody's going to sweep in and pick up the market share in today's day and age that we live in. Like Google would come in,
someone would buy the remnants of whatever was
somebody
there,
with the
right?
amount of
they would
money
have
to be able to do it, to pick it up, because that's you come into the thing of like my thought process. The first place my brain goes is like Amazon's too big to fail.
But some of the biggest companies out there.
But like, give me an example, because like it's in today's day and age, like there are some massive companies out there.
There are,
and the thing is like, could they really fail? Like, I would think at this point, Bezos has the connections where if something was really going south or it was going in a direction or things were shifting, like you have to realize they're pretty fluid with things. The reason that things fail is because they get super stuck and they're like, this is the way that we always do it, and we're not willing to change with the way things are changing.
Right.
And that's how Amazon comes in and goes, oh, Toys R Us goes, well, we'll just do our stuff through Amazon. And then it's like, okay, and it's like,
thank you, Toys R Us, thank you, Blockbuster,
yep.
thank you.
And that's, Netflix did that to Blockbuster, Uber did that to taxis, Airbnb did that to hotels. It's like...
So what happens next? I mean, because they're taking on so much. Like, there's even been conversation around, is it a monopoly? Which, yes and no, but they've kind of taken on all the different avenues of logistics even. They got their own delivery service now.
It's true.
So it's only a matter of time before they're not dependent on the UPS and FedEx of the world.
Well, and they're also, you have to realize, like, they're taking over Whole Foods. They bought Whole Foods. Now they're setting it up where they're testing stores in New York where you can literally walk in, walk out, and the store has the ability to, like, I'm sure there's a thing that you do for your app. You scan it, and you literally grab what you want, and the thing scans it as it's going out, and you don't have to have a person in there. You don't have to have whatever, and it's in and out, getting like a Whole Foods experience without ever having to interact with humans, which my biggest issue with that is, like, we live in a day and age where convenience is so important. People want to have convenience. Everything needs to be as convenient as hell right now. But in that, you're removing the ability to have human interaction, which I think is majorly vital and becoming something that is so rare.
Yeah, it really is.
And it's, to go on our roller coaster ride that we go on here. Do you know what happened in Richardson this morning?
No.
You didn't hear about the altercation that happened at the Kroger on...
No, I didn't hear about it, but before we started, I saw they got the guy that...
Yeah, so...
Homicide, it said.
Yeah, I've got a screenshot here of specifically what happened, but basically there was a guy who stabbed 2 people in the Kroger parking lot and stole their vehicle.
Just random.
Yeah, so today at 9 a.m., officers responded to Kroger parking lot at 160 North Coit Road in reference to 2 individuals who were stabbed by an unknown assailant. The suspect had fled the location in the victim's car before officers arrived. One of the guys wasn't able to make it. I'm so sorry to their family. This isn't like... I'm not trying to exploit this as something to talk about. I'm just talking about stuff that's going on, and I definitely feel for the family. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. I had a conversation with my wife tonight, and I was like, if you're out, you need to be aware of what's going on around you. Just, I get it. It's very easy to be on your phone. It's very easy. Like, even if you're on the phone with me or something like that, I'm like...
Always be scared.
I'm hyper aware when we're around of things of like, why is that person being so weird or sketchy when we're out at places? I don't know why it's my default. And I told her the same thing because that for me is just like, this is the type of stuff that can happen. But basically he stabbed 2 people. He ran away. He caused an accident with other vehicles, fled from that. Eventually they caught him. And then I guess he was charged with capital murder and 1 count of aggravated assault because 1 person didn't make it and 1 person did. So if you know someone or you know that family, like I said, I'm so sorry to hear that. It drives me crazy that we live in a world where stuff like this happens, where we had the shooting.
It's been a rough week for mental illness, man. I'll tell you that. I mean,
and I think it's a double-edged thing where it's like, first of all, we live in this world where we have the ability to be so connected, yet we're so separated. Like I was just talking about, we can't have normal human interaction. But then from my standpoint, and listen, some people may agree with this, some people may not, but this is the basis of this show is Don't Be So Brewed is we're going to be rude every once in a while. We're going to share opinions. And in my opinion, I think medications when it comes to medical illness are overprescribed sometimes. And when you look at what they do physiologically to people, they cause responses sometimes that I think create situations like this. And I know that's the easy thing to just blame something.
It's kind of like my whole shtick on the softening of society, right? And being able to pinpoint where.
Yeah, like where did it start or why is it happening?
My wife and I, we were discussing it. Where does it start? Well, there's one place things start. Birth.
Yep.
Right? Are the drugs that we're loading up on prior to birth having impact long term?
They have to. Physiologically, those things cause changes.
Who the hell knows, right? I mean, who knows? Like, is that what's causing this epidemic with attention deficit disorder? Is that what's causing some of these mental illness problems? Are there other outside influences, which there probably are? Look, when I was growing up, it was the age of antibiotics. Like every time you got sick, they jacked you up with antibiotics,
age.
So it's like we don't know what we're putting in. The government's probably getting paid. These medication, there's no telling, and people are sitting there and they don't want to use food as medication.
You dive deep enough, and it's the fact that everything's based around money. Like that was another topic that we'll get into, but I want to stay on this for just a minute. Is you start some of the podcasts that I listened to. One of the things that I heard was talking about attention deficit disorder, and first of all, I think that's like an excuse for someone who's first of all. Some people just are wired differently. Some people work like that. I think the biggest issue is the system that we work in. You're saying you're taking someone that...
You don't fit the mold.
You don't. And we're not made... How often do you like to just be told to sit down somewhere and do this and like be stuck at this? You are probably like me. You like to be fluid. You're like, if I got to go or move or do whatever, I can move around. Well, kids aren't allowed to do that. You're going to sit here. You're going to listen to me. You're going to read this thing. And a lot of times, listen, I know teachers and I love teachers. I know friends that try to make it as what they can and they do all that. And I majorly appreciate that. But when you look at, I think the podcast I was listening to was talking about schools in France. They're one of the most advanced. They don't start school until 9 or 10 or something like that. There was something about the way that the brain works for when you're younger. They're like, you're not meant to be.
They also get like
early.
6 or 8 weeks of vacation a year.
Yeah, and it's they just talked about how well they do, how well they do in education. There was, obviously I just heard that and I was like, that's very fascinating to me of just, we live in a world where we can blame the system, but the system isn't necessarily a tangible thing that we can grab onto, and it's the easiest scapegoat.
And it's hard to influence. It's hard to change it. It's been built out.
Well, and when you do, you're looked at like a weirdo. So let's say just randomly we go, screw this. We've got our community in Richardson. We're going to do our own thing. We're going to build a commune. We're going to get together. We're going to, I'll have my business, we'll do this stuff, but we're going to figure out a way to like teach our kids, and we're going to do all this, and we're going to, we're going to teach them the stuff that they need to learn. Like, you do need to have a base knowledge of education, but we're also going to teach them business and agriculture and like whatever it is, like things that can apply. Well, if you do that, you're looked at like a freaking weirdo.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, you do something weird. And one of the things I think is so fascinating is it's these beliefs from other insecure people that get pushed on you and then create these weird insecurities.
I call it checklist society, right? Because everybody's on this path, right? You get married, you have children, you do X, Y, and Z, you get a job, it pays well, you put money in your retirement, you do these things, right? And it's crazy. Like I was chatting with a friend, and he had a really interesting observation. I said, I just feel like I'm constantly going against what everybody else is doing, just like the way I think, the way I process. And he goes, you're like a salmon. And I'm like, what's that mean?
You swim upstream.
I goes, you swim upstream. He goes, you swim against the current, you go against where everybody else is going.
Some of us have to be like that, though.
We do, but it also, you second guess a little bit also, right? Like, and we've had the college discussion on earlier episodes, but you at some point you got to sit there and say, hey, is what I'm doing right? Like, I'm sure you're not much different than I am right now. Like I took everything I had. I'm all in this business, and we could have taken a bunch of money and thrown it in the market and seen what happened.
Yeah, I tried to say, hey, I'm gonna put this in here and let it sit for a little bit of time, and
it might have been fine, and we might have been living fat and happy, and everything be great. And
but would you be happy knowing?
No,
I'd
still be doing crazy stuff.
Exactly.
But shit, and like this is still so early, right? So it's like, all right, so I took this like huge monster chance, right? We said, okay, let's invest in ourselves, right? I don't think enough people do it. I think some people get pushed into it, but
no, sometimes you're forced into it, which is a good situation.
Yeah.
It's like I was praying, or I wanted this opportunity, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, you're just kind of forced into it. Like, what are you gonna do now? And it's like, sometimes that's what you have to do. My wife's gone through that multiple times with jobs where she's just like, I don't want to be at this job anymore, but I don't like it. And then it's like, well, you're fired. Well, now I guess we're going to go find something else, like that stuff.
And we talked about that with Elizabeth. I mean, it was like, yeah, sometimes you need that ultimate push to really find your way, I guess, Well,
and it's true. And it's, we bring this up all the time, and I go back to this, like, the Enneagram seems to be a thing that comes up, but like I'm so aware of this now as being a 3, like we are. Like my wife will send me stuff, or I know people that like follow the pages, and it's like there was one the other day, and it's like, this is a life of an Enneagram 3, and it was like, you wake up and you do this, doubt what you're doing, try to help other people solve their stuff, work on this, blah blah blah, inevitably do something else to keep yourself busy and not worry about the other problems that
you really need to fix.
Exactly. And I'm like, and I shared it, and another friend of mine that she's a 3, she just wrote on the story, and she goes, yep. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're a 3. Like, you get it. And it's one of those things where, man, sometimes I get so like, what does this person really think about me? Are they happy with this? Are they like, I get so in it, and it causes this weird doubt.
And it's so normal. That's the thing. Like, everybody goes through it, and it's like, we've got all these thick, hard candy shells that nobody wants to let anybody in. I mean, it's just crazy. And social media just makes it even worse, because it's like, this is the 3% of people's lives that are great. There's only a handful of people getting on there and opening up.
Vulnerability is very powerful, but it's not something that a lot of people like to lean into, because it's like, I'm my brand and everything has to be like this. Like, there's a million feeds out there that all look the same with beautiful filters and perfectly posed. Like, to be honest with you, if you go look at my Instagram, I try to do the opposite of that. Like, I want mine to be almost random. Like, what is this? And it's like, I don't care. The goal is to get stuff out. It's not going to be perfect all the time. And that's...
See, I struggle with that.
And believe me, I struggle with it too. If you look, I haven't posted in a while, and it's because of that, of like, what do I want to do? What do I want to create? I'm focused on other areas. That's not where my head's at. And then I'll get on tangents, and I'm on and I'm like,
I know.
Yep, this is funny. Post this meme.
Like I wanted to get
myself.
content created the last week and a half, and I just I get started and then I get distracted.
This is what we're gonna do with that idea.
It's
that
a problem.
By the way,
We want to tell them about this right now. We've got to flesh this out a little
bit.
bit.
Not yet. We're gonna tease it a little bit because we're gonna find a couple people. We're gonna start it out real small. They're getting really teased right now. They're just like, what are they talking about? But before we dive into that, I want to get into, you were talking about your new routine and like what you've been doing. Because for me, I kind of started a new routine lately. So I've been doing a little research on intermittent fasting, and I've seen some posts about some other people doing it.
I've done it a little bit.
One of the guys that's big in CrossFit, Rich Froning, he does it, and he gets his blood work done every year to test his markers and to look at everything from a performance standard. And he was like, I started doing, and I'll get into it a little bit, like he started doing intermittent fasting, and he did the 8 and 16. So you have an 8-hour window that you can eat, and you fast for 16. And he was talking about his testosterone doubled. Like he was like, it was in the 400s, it went to the 800s, like all this stuff metabolically that changed. And he was like, I feel pretty good doing that. He said, I'm always a person that never really liked to eat at first. I only eat when I need to, but I was getting to the point. And so he had some work that he did, and he figured it out to try to make his meals right in his 8-hour window. But he's like, I feel the best off that. And this guy's competing at the highest level in the CrossFit Games off of this. And that was kind of the last little straw that pushed me over of like, for me, I do the best when I have a system and something to function in of just like, this is what it is.
You need a plan.
Like, if I've only got an 8-hour window, then that's what I got. And when that hits, I'm going to eat. I'm going to try to eat as well as I can, but I'm not going to freak out about it so much either, because I'm kind of calorie limiting myself, and then I'm tapping into some other things. And so I started doing research on this. I was watching a video today of a medical doctor doing a presentation on this, and he's like, intermittent fasting is such a fascinating thing, and it's not super popular and pushed in the medical world because guess what? It's free. And guess what it also does? It saves you money because you're doing something that's natural. That he joked about, like, there's the Dalai Lama, there's Jesus, there's all these religious people. He goes, the one thing they probably all agreed on was fasting. So
fasting and drinking wine.
There you go. See? And so
that's all you need. He
was just talking about how, when you start looking at this, and he pulled up all these studies and the physiological effects of it and what goes on, and how, he started out by putting the basis of like, he is a kidney doctor. He works with a lot of kidney disease, which stems from diabetes a lot of the time, so type 2 diabetes. And so he was like, the problem was I went to medical school to try to help people, and then I got out and was realizing I'm not really helping people. I'm just helping them until they get a heart attack, until they get neuropathy, until we cut their feet off. Like, he was like, I'm not really helping them. And the reason
but it's the same thing, right? Like, until you're pushed, a lot of people don't change.
But the thing is if you're someone that they go to and you trust, you need to be the one giving them advice. But guess who doesn't do that? The people that just want to make money. Because that's what he said. And I still think in my mind, and I'm sure in your head, you're like, I could think of ways to make that a profitable thing. And I know people that they create a following, and they're like, I'm the intermittent fasting guy, and let me show you all the benefits, and let me show you how to do it, and let me teach you the things that you can and can't do. Because when people get into something, that's what they want to know. What can I do? What can't I do? What are my risks? What do I need to look out for? Like,
today we're going to sell you an empty box of cereal.
Yeah. And so I've been trying it out. I'm someone who sleeps pretty well anyway. My sleep has been way better. I felt way better. I like the structure for me. So listen, we always talk about this. I love breakfast food, breakfast sandwiches. That's my jam. But I never really eat breakfast.
Is that a breakfast pun? That's my jam.
Oh, yeah. But I really don't. Like, I would always wake up and I'm like, I would eat like a Perfect Foods bar or like something very basic, and like not even really getting a meal, but I'm breaking my fast that I had throughout the night, which is breaking the fast. And so for me, I was like, then why do I even need to do that? And then as I started researching and doing some of the stuff, it's like, well, that kind of makes sense. And what happens is you have hormones that are released, like ghrelin, whatever you want to call it, that makes you hungry. And then the guy showed a study on what happens is it spikes and then it calms back down.
You drink a glass of water and you're back to steady.
And everyone talks about like how many times have you been busy or you didn't work and you were so hungry and then it just went away. It's like your body goes through ebbs and flows of this. Well, intermittent fasting actually helps get that under control. It decreases the spikes that happen.
What I found with it is when I do eat, I don't eat as much.
Which is also the benefit, which also means then you have to make sure you're getting in the things that you need.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's, one of the... You have to be smart about what you're doing. And there's lots of different ways to do it. Listen, the 8 and 16 for me was the easiest. There's 20 and 4 that you can do where you fast for 20 hours and you only eat for 4. There's, every other day. So you can literally do like a day fast and the next day you eat normal. It's just...
There's dozens of ways. Mm-hmm. Everyone's had success with each of them. It just depends on your body type and your level of commitment.
Yeah, and I just love it for the health benefits. So whether you want to, no matter what style of diet that you want to do, you can intermittent fast, and there's certain processes. There's going into autophagy, which is just a fancy word for your body basically cleaning up the junk inside. And
like a cleanse.
Yeah, it's your body going, okay, so when I look at this, Scott's got these heart cells here, and then he's got these fat cells. Do we want to break this down? Do we want to break down a muscle cell? Do we want to break down this? Or do we just want to break this down in order to... And it's like your body naturally defaults to that, because with intermittent fasting, everybody's like, well, you're going to waste away. You're going to lose muscle. And it's like, well, the studies actually show that you actually increase and maintain muscle mass while you're doing this, because your body's intelligent. It knows what it wants to burn up. And so... For me, I was just amazed by the fact of like some of the health benefits of it, and whether you want to be keto, paleo, macros, like whatever it is, you can do all that stuff.
You know what the problem is, man? This is the culture now. Like, I feel like the culture through the 40s, 50s, 60s used to be around the automobile. Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that? I mean,
True.
Look at the advertising, right? I mean, it was very family automobile heavy, and now that's become kind of mainstream. Not everybody wants to drive.
Yeah, that's almost flipped. Like, I know people that turn 16.
I'll tell you what I think it is now.
Driver's license.
Food. Food has taken over as the primary culture.
Probably because everything's about an experience.
An
or
experience.
Instagram post, or
everybody travels.
Who's got the cheapest?
You travel for food. Man, I said for years, like, man, gosh, it must have been 0102, and I was like, convenience kills. Mm-hmm. And my analogy at the time was real simple. You can go to the corner store to go buy your gallon of milk, and it's $4 or $5, or you go into the grocery store, and it's $2.50 for the convenience.
Yep.
And people pay it.
And they do, and that's with a lot of things they're willing to do that.
And that was just the beginning. Who knew?
You always have to find, for me, and listen, that's my struggle that I have to work with everyone, is that you have to realize that you have to take care of yourself. You're only going to get one body, and if you don't invest in it now, you're going to have to invest in your illness and disease later when stuff comes up and things happen. And are there people that are crazy healthy that stuff still happens? Yes, I understand that.
There's the people
that sit on the other side. They're like, I smoked every day of my life and I lived to 100. I ate ice cream every day.
Hey, man,
drink beer every day. Like, I'm not trying to.
You could get lucky. You could take care of your body now and pay for it later. You could. I mean, everybody's makeup is different. Do what makes you happy. Do what makes you feel good.
Mm-hmm. And for me, like, I just brought it up because, like, I've loved it so far. Of like, I just love the structure. Like, for me, it's like, it's no problem. I wasn't really eating it anyway. I've got no problem doing it. Why not just try this out and see? And I've felt great on doing it. So I'm like, I'm gonna stick with it because I tried that at one point in time for a little while, but it wasn't for me at the time. I guess I don't know, because I've tried almost everything you can think of: keto, paleo, macros, zone, any of that. Like, I've tried all those things, pretty much know majority of them. But this is one of the ones that I'm like, I felt really good on this. I've only been doing it for like a week. I'm like, I feel pretty good doing this. I'm surprised. So I started, like I do, watch YouTube videos on it, look up some research, do some things. I'm like, interesting. This has some health benefits.
Heck yeah.
Because the first thing I noticed within a couple of days was like, man, I'm getting like some solid sleep. Like, I normally sleep well, but
you get deeper sleep.
Oh yeah, I'm getting like deep sleep. I was like, okay, there's got to be something to this. So now that we've bored the audience completely, 1,000%
for the one of you that's still listening,
yeah. They're like, what is this? They're like, these guys
Thanks for hanging in there.
These guys have gone on a crazy tangent, which, by the way, let's just give Dr. A a shout out. He just sent me a manly beer text.
Ooh, yeah.
So he'll know that he's on here.
He's been using the heck out of that cup, man.
I'm going to tell him that I
love
just
it.
mentioned you.
You could tell him right now. Hey, man.
On the
Dr.
podcast.
A. You just got mentioned on the podcast.
Watch this. Let's just FaceTime him. Let's just bring him onto the podcast. Let's just do something real fun.
Okay, let's do it.
He probably doesn't even know that we're doing it. Yo, what's up, man?
Are we mid-podcast?
You are mid-podcast right now.
I'm basically famous whether I'm there or I'm not. Right?
It's true. I mean, that's what you get. I was just telling Scott that you would text me, and so I'm like, hey, look at Dr. A over here talking about drinking his manly beer because it's dark. He didn't have that blonde in the cup. It was dark beer.
Well, that was the purpose. I'm using my Brew Crew mug, basically reminding everybody that I'm trying to be as manly as Scott Zimmerman.
Yeah. It's a hard job.
I'll have to get you another mug. I'll have to get you a bigger mug.
The only person I know who's half as manly as Scott Zimmerman is Zool.
True.
That's 50%. That's good.
I would say
that's passing in most cultures.
After Scott's coffee order, I would put you at double his manliness, so that's fine. I'm just saying. To be honest, I don't know anyone manlier than Zool, but that's besides the point. So let's do something fun. Why don't you just give us a topic, and we're just going to rip on it right now for like the next who knows how long.
Till Zool kicks us out.
Yeah. Till he's putting the cane out. He's like, cut it.
I want to hear your guys' take on frat straps on sunglasses.
Like the little thing around the back?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm excited to hear this podcast and hear how it ends.
All right. Well, we're going to get on it right now.
Stay tuned.
See you, brother.
Later. That's a really bizarre question. Frat strap. I didn't either.
Interesting. Man, so I think there's two sides to this. I'm always the two sides person. I love to look at perspectives. Okay. I feel like there's a convenience. You know, how many times have you... I can tell you multiple times I've lost pairs of sunglasses being out on the water, doing anything like that. You're out at the ocean, something like that, and I'm like, boom, they get sucked off and they're gone. And like an idiot, I probably shouldn't have had them anyway, but I'm like,
It's like, I knew I shouldn't have bought those $300 sunglasses. Damn it.
But I feel like it's like the sporty version of like grandma's little thing where she can like take them off and know that they're always resting on the, you know.
So the only people that I know that use them are golfers and my hunter buddies that golf. That's the only time I really see it.
I mean, we just get back to knowing your market, right? Knowing your people. Those are the ones.
To me,
that
I mean, that's kind of what I see now. For like me, if I'm not wearing a hat, I almost always have my sunglasses sitting on my head. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's like my girls having their little hair thing, and it's like they just kind of end up there. And even when it's sunny out, I don't put them on for some reason.
Well, and for me, I just clip them on my shirt. I don't understand the need for the thing. Like, I know he called it a frat strap. I think we could just call it a douche strap at this point. Like,
dude strap?
A douche.
A douche strap.
Like,
wow.
Why the hell do you need that thing?
I don't know.
I mean, literally, like I said, I'll just clip them on my shirt right here. Like,
I mean, some people are just really slick. Maybe they just can't keep their glasses on their face.
Or do they just have glasses that are that nice? Is that why?
Maybe.
I don't think that those people are having the world's nicest glasses. I don't.
I've never seen a pair like come with it.
But we may have the next subscription box. You can get your douche straps. It just will personalize them for you.
Would be like, don't be so douche.
Oh, that would be a hilarious. Don't be so douche. Okay, I love it. That is so good. Okay, I think we covered that. We beat that enough. Jason should be happy with that, hopefully. I guess I don't really have an opinion. Like, if that's what you want to wear, that's Jason, fine. But I don't really understand. Whip it good.
Whip it good.
So we kind of teased this the majority of the episode. Do you want to you want me to kind of get into like what happened and like what we want to do, and then just like, I think I want to kind of leave it a little vague and then see if people want to reach out.
I think we keep it vague, and I think if folks are interested, we talk a little more. I don't want to put too much out there just yet because we've still got to flesh.
And I was thinking about it earlier today. I've got a couple names. I've got some things that I want to work out, and even just the idea of like, hey, we can sit down and have strategy.
You know what
sessions.
I think if you're following along and you think you're a person of influence, we'd like to talk with you.
Not an influencer. That's a
person of influence. Somebody that could influence others.
Somebody that's well known.
Whether it be relationship-based influence, whether it be social-based influence.
Yeah, so whether social media, through people, through contacts.
We're interested in chatting with you. We've got a very interesting idea that, from what we could tell so far, has not been done yet. And it's something that could really help a lot of people.
Basically, the goal... So here's what happened. Scott came into the office. I don't even know what that was. Scott came in the office.
Zip it.
Like, what?
You don't remember? Zip it. Zip it.
Yeah. Exhibit A.
Zip it.
What was it? It was like last week, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And you were just telling me about, we're trying to figure all this stuff out, but like, I'd really like to get a glorified salesperson. And like, listen, I love selling. I think it's fun just to even mess with people of like, hey, I'm at your place. What's the most expensive thing on your menu? Let me try to convince this dude to try to get it. Like,
right.
It's fun to me. It's a little bit more serious when obviously it's like with what I do, I take that a little bit more seriously. But like other times I'll just see like, can I play around with things and get it? So Scott was just telling me about this, and he's like, "Man, I'd love a glorified person." And I was like,
"Not even glorified, just a straight like commission salesperson."
Yeah, like a commission salesperson.
We're hiring.
Just saying. I've kind of already taken your spot, though. I just want you to know. So
there's room.
And Scott didn't even ask me to do this, but just as a thing, because I like to stay pretty active on social media, and so I said, "Hey, I've got a really cool special thing going on. If you're somebody that is looking for, I think it was tumblers, just reach out to me and let me know." So I left it kind of vague, but just like, hey, if you want to, I posted it on my Instagram and my Facebook. I think I got Scott like 9 leads, which has now turned into a few more from somebody that he took care of. And I was just like, this is interesting because Scott and I being, entrepreneurs, the relational capital is huge. Going out and meeting people is a part of it, and you have to do that. But the goal is always to meet the right people. And we go to some networking things, and no offense, there are some that I like a little bit more than others, but you're basically all the same. Hate to hurt your feelings.
You're not hurting my feelings. I told you this a year ago.
No, I'm saying this to them.
Almost a year ago.
I'm saying this to them as the people who create these. I hate to hurt your feelings, but you're all basically the same. You show up, you do your thing, you do your pitch, somebody does a 10-minute presentation, you do this, you meet face-to-face, one-to-one, mano-a-mano, whatever the hell you want to put as your little, this is our slang, this is what we call it, and you all do the same thing. Now guess what? 1 out of 15, 20, 30, 50 of those people is like, damn, I needed to meet that person, that was good. That was a good connection that you made. But a lot of them aren't. The problem is they're just told to do that. Like we talked about this. You're told to, hey, go get in a networking group, go do this, go have this many face-to-faces. Eventually business is going to come from that. Whether you're in insurance or real estate or whatever it is. That's how you're told to do it.
So if you've been through that and you agree with that and you think you're a person of influence,
we want to shake
we
that
want
up
to
a
talk to
little
you. We want to talk to you.
Just want to drop
we've got
a little...
some great ideas that we think could be built out into something quite amazing.
And it's going to be very hush-hush.
That can help a lot of people.
Why we're putting it on.
It's going to be underground.
Richardson's biggest podcast.
That's right. It's going to be underground.
It's very hush-hush.
So that's what we're looking for.
Basically, my goal with this is for people to be like, I'm trying to do this. I really want to grow my business. I'm looking to be connected with people, and I've got a really good idea, and this is what I want to do, and I want people to go, I know these 2 guys, and they have this thing. It's very underground. Not a lot of people know about it. We don't even really know what they do, but it works.
It works. People just come out saying it's amazing.
And that's what we want to create, and I know that
That's
sounds like a very big promise.
That's the plan.
But I promise you, Scott and I, with these ideas, this is one that we will deliver on. I think it'll be amazing. It's something, like I said, without us even talking, he was like, I was working on it today. I was like, so was I. I was thinking of some names and some ideas, which I don't even know if it's going to... I went back and forth on that because I'm like, maybe it doesn't even need any. Because I don't even want people to know.
It could be nameless.
Yeah. I just want it to be like, oh. And people like, it's one of those things where when and people are like, hey, man, can I talk to you for a second? It's like, what's up? It's like, well, I know you're like a part of this thing, and I know the secret word is plantain, and I just, Yeah.
The first rule about...
It's a speakeasy for businesses. It's just like you got to knock on the door and it's like, what's the password? Fig Newton?
I think I know the place we could do this at, too.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is just a little tease at the end of this. This is for the people who are OGs. But like Scott said, if you're someone that thinks that you're interested in this...
Aren't you glad you hung out this long?
Yep.
I mean, you would have missed these awesome nuggets of information.
And if you're watching right now, you can email us or just go on Facebook and shoot us a message on Facebook Messenger. If you got my number, shoot me a text, whatever it is. Just get a hold of one of us and say, hey, I'd love to know more about it. And we'll figure out a time that we can get together. And
go sit down and have a drink and talk.
Yeah, we'll pitch you a little bit on what we got going on, and we think it'll be something that would be majorly beneficial for your business, depending on what it is. We're going to be exclusive. We're not going to accept everything. That's one of those things that everyone says. I think it needs to be like that. Like, I love what you're doing. I don't think it's a good fit for what we're doing. I wish you the best of luck.
Or maybe refer them to people that we think could help them.
Yep. And do that and be connectors and try to do that stuff. But that's basically the idea. So we'll go to Scott's final thoughts here. I'll give him a second to be prepared. While we're doing that, make sure that you guys are liking this, sharing it with people that you would love to watch this. Make sure you guys go on iTunes and all that stuff.
Drop
Leave
a
us a review.
Yeah.
Subscribe on YouTube. Leave us recommendations on Facebook. Make sure that you really upset our haters. Did you see what I did the other day, by the way?
No.
I say the other day. I think it was yesterday. I commented. I was going through some of our notifications because I hadn't looked in a while on our Facebook page for the Don't Be So Brewed podcast page. And the lady who left us a bad review, I commented a GIF to her bad review. And I think it was just like, I think it's from The Office, and he's like, "Thank you," and I was just being a smartass.
That's awesome.
I had to do it, but we would love for you guys to like, comment, subscribe, share, tag people in this. When we run this thing on Facebook and do premieres, hop on here, engage with us. We love doing that. We love hanging out with you guys. We love doing this. This is honestly part of why we do it.
It's
even
fun.
when we don't have guests and it's just us. We could have just sat at home and talked and had this
just
conversation.
going back to the roots.
But we want to have it with you guys. So we will now go to Scott's final thoughts. Everybody,
all right.
Close your eyes, close your ears, and say
Hold
your
your
prayers,
breath.
because here we go.
What concert cost just 45 cents? 50 Cent featuring Nickelback.
Yeah, I already knew that one, but I didn't want to bust your joke. Unfortunately,
Thanks,
I'm Dr.
man.
Brandon Brown,
I
and
appreciate
approve this message.
I appreciate that very much. Phenomena.
That was terrible.
Phenomena. Phenomena. Phenomena.